Oh no, I touched my face. All right. I believe it says we are live, because if we weren't live, it wouldn't tell me that I could end the broadcast. So we must have a broadcast. Hello, everybody. I am RJ Carter. I am the senior manager here at criticalblast.com. And tonight it is Comic Books in Crisis. We've all heard Corona shutting down stores, and now we've heard that Diamond has stopped distributing to comic shops. So tonight with me, I have in the upper right-hand corner, Dave Dyer from Cosmic Comics in Belleville, Illinois. And down here on the bottom, I have Michael Tierney from the comic book store in Little Rock and Collector's Edition in North Little Rock. Guys, welcome to the show.
Hey, good to be here. Yeah, I've got my computer on and I'm getting a little feedback. Let me shut that off so it doesn't cause any problems.
Yeah, I can hear me coming back from somebody. So Dave, you're in Illinois, as am I.
Yeah.
Which means that the rules for you are going to be a little bit different than they are for
right,
mine.
I forgot I turned that on just to make sure you're not in a different time zone than me now.
No, we haven't shifted west yet.
Under the New World Order, we might, but not yet.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I get what you're saying. Though there was that thing that they were talking about voting us out of the daylight savings time thing, so that could have screwed things up. So Dave, you were going to actually stay open during the Corona crisis and sell at the door. Is that correct?
Yeah, I wanted to stay open completely because we never, most comic book stores outside of gaming don't have more than 10 people at a time. So I was well under what the guidelines were. But then when our governor of Illinois basically said stay at home after 5 o'clock on this last Saturday, we had to comply, even though everybody was texting me telling me that comic books are essential to their well-being and their sanity.
Yeah,
I tried to tell that to the governor. So so we've been shut down. Now yesterday with my regular pull list, I did get a shipment in from Diamond, the last one. I was able to sell out of the front door to curbside, or they pay right at the door. I didn't allow anybody into the shop. But that was just one day. So, unless I get a lot of emails from people saying they want this and that, like today I ended up staying home, nothing. So.
Now, Michael, you're in Arkansas, and there's not a shutdown order in effect on you guys yet, right?
No, we're full steam ahead. We're, we kind of got derailed by Diamond saying we're not going to ship to you anymore because we were not affected at all. Matter of fact, if anything, business was maybe a little bit stronger than normal. So we were doing good. People are not freaked out about this at all down here. I mean, you got a few people who are, but for the most part, everybody's like, look, what are the chances? It's a very highly recoverable thing. It's, there's a lot to be said. I mean, they're obviously, now that's me talking as an individual. I was a leukemia survivor, what was supposed to be terminal leukemia when I was a kid. I've never met another survivor. So, that's part of me. Like, sometimes you feel like you're bulletproof. Now, me talking as a city councilman, the reason that they're doing all the shutdowns, or not necessarily the shutdowns, but as far as the social distancing, shutting down all the big events where you get a whole lot of people gathered together, it's like people are going to catch this, and there are going to be a lot of people who have a high incidence of respiratory problems that are going to need hospitalizations, and we just don't have the facilities for it. So what they're doing is they're trying to take the curve and flatten it out, because people are going to get this. This thing is just too virulent. It's going to be everywhere. There's really no stopping it now. The genie is out of the box. They're just trying to keep it where the epidemic, when it hits, is not going to overwhelm emergency services. And matter of fact, we had to make some new ordinances in the city to enable our medical services to be able to deal with this. And so that's the politician of me, having to deal with the social side of it talking. So I see both sides of the argument, but we're I don't know anybody who's had it. There's been nobody anywhere close to my circles who's had it. My customers are like, just wanting to keep on shopping. My employees said, we want to keep on working. So that to me, it was the end of the argument. I'm just going to keep servicing people.
Well, I know whenever I was a kid and I would get sick and be kept in bed, one of the things that would come to me was my dad would bring me in a stack of comic books.
Yeah.
So, sickness is good for comic book reading. It tends to fill the book.
That's why Michael's probably doing so well, and I would be doing equally as well. if we were open because people want to come in, get their books, and go home, especially if they're self-quarantining themselves. And yeah, they need that for their health and their family. So yeah, it's it's a catch-22 for me. For Michael, hopefully he doesn't have to go through this, but it ends up being a catch-22 for small businesses.
Well, I'm in a different
comic book industry.
So I'm in a different catch-22 than you are now that I no longer have product to sell, but I'm able to be open. I don't want to send my employees say, okay, well, you're going on employment there. I can't employ you because obviously if you don't have the new comics to sell, you're not going to sell enough back issues to pay all your bills and this and that. I'm hoping, and I've got a call in, and I'm going to be talking to a banker tomorrow who deals a lot with the SBA, who's going to advise me on what I can do to maybe help keep them on. I guess this new care package that they just passed in Congress is going to help businesses, maybe even pay your payroll for you. I'm not sure. I'm going to find more about that tomorrow. So I'm going to do everything I can to stay open, I can't do it at a loss. So I'm trying to figure out a way to keep my people employed. Right now, that's my number one concern. It was really shaping to be a good year before this whole coronavirus ever hit. Business was better. We started selling a little bit more on the internet. Lots of collections were coming in. This was going to be a banner year, and then we all got the rug pulled out from under us there.
Sure did. And Michael, how many employees do you have at your shop?
I'm lucky. I'm running with a skeleton crew already, and so I've got 2 locations and 2 employees. So you can't have a shorter crew than that. So I'm lucky in that respect. I did not have a lot of extra people on right now.
Now, see, what I'm understanding under this not the stimulus, but the business loan is that, and unless they changed it over the last 48 hours, you and I don't qualify because, well, you might. I haven't been in business for 2 years yet. I've been in business for a year and a half, but I don't have 5 employees. The idea was you had to be in business for 2 years and have at least 5 employees to be eligible for this grant. I don't. I'm a one-man show. I have a 1,500 square foot. Yeah, I have a 1,500 square foot shop, and I'm one person. My wife helps out when she can in the evening, but that's it. So I really don't qualify for any of that if that's what they're still planning to do.
Yes, I don't know. I've not heard all those details yet. It's like I don't even pay myself as an employee. So so right now none of the stimulus package is helping me at all.
Yeah,
and
most of us are not.
So
I'm
going to get a good news tomorrow.
Yeah, we might get that $1,200 stimulus, but I always make a joke. Hell, that doesn't even pay one Diamond distribution invoice.
Yeah.
So
no.
yeah, it's just it's crazy. So
yeah, it's rough times. You're just trying to navigate through it.
Yeah. Did they put a deadline on their cessation of shipments?
No, Diamond. No, they didn't. They just said until further notice.
Yeah. Did you send your order in?
I actually tonight I will send my order. I'm finishing up my order. It's due tonight in the morning by 4 o'clock.
Yeah, they're saying they still want the order turned in, but they said it'll all be adjustable.
Exactly. And that's the other question that none of us know yet is what is Diamond going to do when they go back to shipping again? That all can't come in at once, because I don't know about you, Michael, but I don't have whatever that's going to be for, a month or 2 months of back shipment coming in at me at once. I don't have that kind of cash flow laying around. No one's going to, because we don't, most of us who are shut down, there's no cash flow coming in.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. They're not giving us any answers. I did talk to a lady at Alliance, which is another one of Jeffy's companies that's completely shut down. And she told me that they're looking at a 3-week shutdown. We didn't even get that information off the email. 3 weeks at least gives you a little bit of picture, but even that's not definite, though. It could be extended.
Yeah.
Well, comic shops are already operating on pretty much a razor-thin margin. That a lot of them aren't a success. I know, Michael, you're sure we've talked several times. You're very successful in keeping open because you have this routine of listening to your customers and not buying into things that are fads and stuff like that. But you have stores like Lee's Comics in California that said, "Hey, for the coronavirus, we're going to shut down for the foreseeable future." And the foreseeable future was about a week, and they said, "Yeah, you know what? We're shutting down entirely. We can't do it."
Well, I can see. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I can see where Lee's coming from, because right now it is a great time. If you want to give it up, this would be a good time, because you can just make a clean cut with Diamond. where you'd have like a couple months order still coming in. You'd try to have to manage that. It's a clean cut with your employees. So I can see why if you're wanting to give it up, this would be a good time to do it. I'm just not ready to give it up.
Neither am I. I mean, this is something where at an old age I started doing this, a year and a half ago, and it's my dream to do it, and I'm going to go down kicking and fighting, or we're going to keep sailing away. I mean, right now we're dead in the water, as in many of the other shops in the Illinois area, and even in Missouri and many other states. We're dead in the water because Diamond is not shipping, nor the game companies shipping, like Alliance and so on. Entertainment, E-Entertainment, I believe, is not shipping right now. So everybody's dead in the water. Now, how do we continue to tread that water and come out of this surviving? Because this is all I know this is all a curve, but this is all going to impact everything on a drastic measure eventually. Right now, hey, if I can open up in 2 weeks, it'll be still be a little bump, and we'll probably all get back on our feet. But if this drags out longer and longer and longer, the consequences, it's a cause and effect situation.
Yeah, I got a double whammy because I just placed a really big supply order with a company that's actually in your state, and then they got announced that they were going to be closing down. So mine was like the last order that they shipped out, and then the next day, that's when I get the notice that Diamond's not going to ship comics anymore. So if I'd known that, I would have placed the big order the day before. So we had no way to plan.
Yeah.
Well, now, Diamond say that they weren't going to ship, or did they say that they're not accepting new comics to ship, and they weren't going to ship something in their warehouse?
Yeah, they didn't say anything about new orders. They just said they're not shipping as of right now until further notice. And all of their shipping distributions, Philadelphia, Maryland, so on and so forth, those are all closed up. So,
Okay, so they definitely not shipping anything. Then they closed it up.
Correct.
And Marvel had no idea. I mean, they've already got product ready to sell. There's some speculation they may sell it through other outlets. I'm like, well, how do I get on part of that?
Okay, so several years back, Diamond was actually involved in a lawsuit because they were being basically called a monopoly in the comics business. They were the only game in town, and they were deemed to be not a monopoly because there were other smaller distributors. Has anybody looked into these smaller distributors? Fairfield, I know that there's no way they could possibly pick up the slack, but is there any way that they can get some books out to some places and keep some stores going?
Diamond has exclusive contracts with Marvel, DC, and all the big ones there. So they're legally bound. That there's this whole thing. I've been around for quite a long time. I remember back when Marvel said we want to be our own distributor. So they bought Heroes World, a regional northeastern company, and tried to take it global. Hemorrhage money, lost their shirt. Well, while all that was going on, DC said, well, Marvel's got their own distributor. We want to have our own distributor. And Capital City and Diamond got into a bidding war. And poor Steve Jeppy, I think he basically gave away the store because they knew that whoever didn't win DC, they were doomed. And sure enough, Capital City, when they lost, they were out of business within a year. All right, so now, and then Marvel, they finally give up, say, Hero World's losing too much money. We want to be distributed by Diamond too. So now all of a sudden you've got a monopolized distribution system. They could have gone back. We had like 7 distributors before. Used to, if this had happened, people who don't have their warehouses, they could have continued to ship product. But by putting all their eggs in one basket, and the reason I think the publishers did this was to put a nail in the lid on the industry because they don't like all these independent publishers, out there competing with the market that they grew. And so they wanted this monopolized distribution system. And when you put all your eggs in the basket, well, you get what just now happened. And people have tried to start other distribution centers, but there's just, if you don't have Marvel and DC, you don't have enough volume to support any kind of infrastructure. It's crazy that the comic books have shipped every week. There's never been a skipped week since the 30s. We've been through World War II, Vietnam, Korea, 9/11, you name it. We've always shipped comics until now.
It makes me wonder if we're not going to come out of this on the other side and then have comic book stores start considering, hey, maybe we do have a monopolizing problem here and should start fighting for another distributor. And
Well, they were
And
invested.
I think we've all tried to. I mean, I know Howard, you and I have talked about that, and I'm sure Michael agrees that I don't like the fact that Diamond is the only guy in town, or all the towns, and they've monopolized everything, and then they pick and choose who they distribute. So like my shop, I really specialize in trying to carry the underground, the small print run, independent comics, but I also still have to have my DC and Marvel there. And I hate the fact that Diamond doesn't distribute all those little guys. They pick and choose on it. The problem that we're also going to see, and this is probably happening right now, those smaller guys who aren't in with Diamond and want to try to distribute on their own, we got a problem with printing because, from what I understand, that even the printing is stopped right now. No one's printing anything. So
there are some
there's an issue there.
Alterna Comics, that's run by Peter Samedi, and Michael, you remember Peter, we were on with him last year. He announced earlier yesterday, I think, that he said good news. His printer was staying open because they were deemed a necessary business because of whatever else they must have done. So Alterna Comics is going to continue distributing their books. I would hope that there will at least be some other independents. I mean, this could be a silver lining for what do they say? It's an ill wind that blows nobody no good. Some of the independents who still distribute and can still get some open comic book stores to take their stuff, they could see a windfall out of this.
The whole thing is you don't want to get killed on shipping from all these different people. I mean, that's one thing about having consolidated shipments. It keeps your shipping costs down.
Yeah.
When all of a sudden your shipping costs get too high, well, then it doesn't make any point. One thing
I
will
would
say,
imagine that they would try, these smaller companies that are doing that, like Alterna, would try to work some kind of shipping deal, until this thing passes. Even if that's free shipping, if you're ordering X amount of months, X amount of comics from them. I mean, there's got to be a give and take from everybody in this, especially with the smaller comics, if they want to get them in the store. If your store is open, once again, there's the issue. My store, for all intents and purposes, legally can't be open.
now one thing I do want to add, though, because I don't want to sound like we're just bashing on Diamond. One thing I will say that if you'd asked me way back when the whole distribution crashed from 7 major distributors down to 1, if you'd asked me who would have been the one to be the survivor, I probably would have picked Diamond because Steve took a lot of hits. He didn't have to. He bought out distributors rather than let them go bankrupt. And then literally that would have bankrupted a lot of the smaller independent publishers. And so he took on a lot of debt he didn't have to because he was worried about the health of the industry. And even after they did the deal with DC, I remember Paul Levitz had a leaked email talking about how DC could exercise an option to buy Diamond, and then they could just dictate terms to retailers and crank down the discount levels and all sorts of stuff. It raised a big brouhaha, and you never heard anything about the DC's option to buy Diamond again. I think Diamond's basically distributing DC almost at cost just to have the volume to maintain the infrastructure. So he took some hits himself, to keep the industry going through that one. So I don't want to make him out like he's a bad guy. He's just in a bad situation like the rest of us here.
Yeah, I don't think that we're bashing Diamond in a fashion that's saying, hey, they're screwing over all these comic book stores.
Right.
But more, we're just sort of pointing out that, hey, look, there is a bottleneck here that if we lose this linchpin, it all falls apart. Like when programming and we're following, heavy data flows, I'm like, oh, look, it all comes to this one process point here at the same time. If that thing fails, we're going to be called in the middle of the night. And that's the stuff we look for.
And see, we're not getting any real help from the publishers. Marvel said, well, we'll give you some extra discounts on the books that come out this time period. It'll be credited on a future invoice. DC hasn't said one word at all. Some other publishers said, well, we'll let you do some returnable in a couple of months. I mean, nothing to help anybody now. You got stores out in California who can't even open the doors, can't pay their bills that they got coming in now. So, Diamond's stuck in the middle having to deal with all these people who got books going to them that either they can't receive or they can't pay for. You got the publishers like, well, we want our money now. We'll do something about this later. So he really got stuck in the middle. Then when they started closing down his warehouses, I can see why he took the decision he did. I wish he hadn't have. I wish they'd found a workaround. But, when it really goes down to it, the publishers so far have not stepped up to the plate. Now, they're saying they're going to help us down the road, but we need help right now.
We need a lifeline. Totally.
Right.
What is it that what do comic shops need from the publishers right now? If we were to give them some guidance and say this will help us.
Well, extended terms, better discounts right now because I contacted Diamond and said, okay, Marvel's giving us all these extra discounts on these books. Can I adjust my invoice? Like, no, you have to pay that invoice now in full, and that will come on a future credit. So
it'll be on the back end.
Right. So all these retailers got all these invoices hitting them now, and a lot of them don't have the sales because they can't do the sales to pay for those invoices. And and everybody's all the help from the publishers like later. And again, like I said, DC's gone mute. I mean, they can even shut down their message board. You can't even fans can't even contact them right now. They're just kind of like washing their hands. And I've heard there's some talk that they may continue to publish digitally. And I've heard some other publishers like Dark Horse have said they won't. They will stop doing the digital until they can start publishing print again, which is the right thing to do. Right. So it all depends on how the publishers handle this. And so far, it's been a lot of talk about what they're going to do later, but nothing about what they're going to do right now. And we're in a right now world right at this moment.
Well, what would also be nice is if the smaller publishers who are just take a handful of them, any of them, if they could reach out to the comic book stores and say, look, we normally distribute through Diamond, but we're willing to help you out and, take on taking the shipping and ship it to you directly instead of going through Diamond, which, so we got, the first guy going through the middleman with Diamond and then coming to us. How about just do a direct drop shipment to us if that's available?
Oh, yeah.
That would be one way.
Yeah.
But then I don't know what their contract is in Diamond. Do they end up risking their chance of losing distribution to Diamond? I mean, Diamond's got to do some give and take here. Everybody's going to have to figure this out and, basically help each other out on it.
And see, right now, Diamond's taking their ball and walking off the court.
I'm not going to get any products, but Michael's not getting anything. Michael, if he's open, he can still be able to get at least the independents. I get DC and Marvel are probably locked in with Diamond completely, but what about the little guys, who are out there trying to promote their because look, when it comes down to it, the small comic book guy, not store-wise, but I mean the comic book maker, okay, Lion Force or whatever you want to say, that's going to be tough to try to get through this, because they're depending on getting that issue out and into the stores. And if they're not getting that issue out and into the stores, they're not keeping themselves alive. A lot of these companies even started on fund, the fundraising thing, the crowdfunding. We know a couple of comics that have done that. It's just crazy here because they're dead in the water as well.
Well, a lot of those will do self-distribution too, though. I know some of the crowdfund, they do it to get the money to put the book together and get it into Diamond. And then a bunch of them also just say, oh, you bought the comic from me. I've got the Gemini mailers. I'm sending it out with signatures and postcards. And
right, or White Widow or whatever. But that's good for those people who did that. For those people who didn't and want to come into my store and get that White Widow, not that White Widow puts it out on a relatively normal basis, but they can't now. So they wanted to go into Michael's shop and get that new White Widow, because they can't get it into Michael's shop, they're not able to sell it then. See, that's my point there. So if White Widow can work it out to get that product to Michael, then he can at least get his clients in to buy it.
Yeah, but enterprising a publisher had the resources to do it, going around sending a whole bunch of free comics to all the stores that are still open to try to promote his work to the different stores. That would it's a good opportunity right now. I don't know if anybody's got those kind of resources they can take that kind of hit. Right now, it's the retailers we're the ones taking all the hits, and publishers will take some hits too.
If there's nobody printing it, we're right back to square one again.
Right. And there are some publishers who are taking a hit because they've had product already printed and now it can't get distributed.
Right.
It could be the only new comic on the shelf for that week. They wouldn't get crowded out Marvel and DC.
Exactly.
Dominate the shelves.
Yeah.
So I always try to keep telling the publishers, always like, what do I got to do to get my product where your customers will know it? I keep telling them, one thing you could do that every retailer in America would love, send us plastic sacks. You can print all the information you want about your new book that's free sacks. We're all going to use sacks, and we'd be happy to give them out, and that'll get your product in front of everybody who makes a purchase with us. And unfortunately, nobody's ever picked up on that idea. But like free plastic sacks to all the retailers. I mean, that's something every retailer in America would use.
Yeah.
Peter Smith, if you're listening, hit up Sticker Mule for those plastic sacks. I know they sell them and print them. You can distribute them. And I know that Peter's actually been talking about setting up an alternative distribution network. People have asked him, hey, it's now the time to kick it off. He's like, no, we don't kick off anything before we're ready, which is smart. But that's something that is coming down the line for alternative presses and indies is another opportunity with the expansion of Alterna's kingdom as they're growing larger and larger.
And speaking of publishers, has anybody heard anything about Valiant possibly going out of business again?
I have heard that.
I've had customers come in and tell me they've read it on the internet, and I haven't read anything anywhere.
Oh, well, it must be true.
Oh, I know, exactly. Karen on the internet said it, so she was talking to a white cat.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if Valiant did. It's not, at least, this is what I love. Is Michael, you're on it totally, you're in Arkansas. I'm in Illinois. And it's so different how everybody's tastes are changed from state to state. I don't know how well Valiant does for me, or for you, but Valiant doesn't do much for me.
Doesn't do a whole lot for me either.
Yeah, see, it's almost a dead dog. I hate to say it to them. And God, they're trying,
Yeah.
Give them A+ for trying. So they're trying to come up with some different titles than their same old that they've been doing for years and years. That's the thing. I think this is going to force a lot of these companies to reinvent themselves. We're going to have to find new footing. All of us have to. And I hope Michael can continue to fight the good fight for all of us who are shut down. Because, brother, you are now a flag carrier. You're in the front lines right now. Leading the pack.
I'm running a sale right now too. I've called it the end of the world sale. So,
I feel fine.
Now you know what exactly. That's the other part I've been telling people. But of course, you know what my follow-up sale, once this is all over with, would be a brand new world sale. So
there you go. Let's put a little contrast out there because Dave, you mentioned that there's a difference in the stores and the demographics and the customer base. What does sell and what doesn't sell in your particular areas? And Dave, we'll start with you. What is it that people come in wanting and don't want?
Well, I mean, it's so funny because I really like to try to pay attention to the trends on the independent books because that's, I'm a little guy, so I like to fight for the little guy and create the shelf space for that. This great, and Michael, maybe you can help me because I'm already forgetting it. I think it was called Sweet, it was a horror book. John Kilgan, if you're out there, buddy, hit me the title of it. It was a horror magazine or a horror comic book. Just came out last week. My horror stuff really does well. And that's what I like seeing. Planet Comics that came out that did really well because kind of a retro feel to it. You're always going to have those guys who come in and are the prospectors and shoot up the price of DC Comics, Batman. You're the villain. That's a hot title, or was. Now that storyline's over. You're always going to have those titles doing well. I mean, right now the upswing is going to be Wonder Woman. I spoke out of that.
Really that was fading away into the darkness back there.
Yeah.
The light of the sun went down.
So, like Wonder Woman is a great title. All of a sudden, it didn't sell well for me, and then all of a sudden, it's selling great now because we got a new storyline going through there. So, it's always going to be based on what that storyline is, especially with the new Joker storyline coming in. That's going to take off for all the DC titles. But yeah, I mean, it's all kind of different. That's the weird thing about this industry is that it changes from week to week. One minute I'm only getting in a handful of Batmans because nobody's reading it in my neck of the woods, and now I can't keep it in stock. So and that's the fight that I have as a comic book owner is I don't have other employees, so I can't say, okay, I need you to stay on top of what's really going to get hot here in the next week or two. I'm still just day by day going through the screaming horror. That's it. So that sold great. So um, it's just one of those things where I don't know from week to week, until the next hot thing comes out.
Well, I've been doing this 38 years, and one of the things I've always said from the beginning is, in this industry, you got to keep your roller skates on because it's constantly changing.
Yeah.
Now, as Howard can testify, because he's been in my stores, half of my shelf space is dedicated to independent publishers. Although, the demographics have completely changed, because I remember when I first opened up in 1982, every single title was all ages. Well, as the comic books became more mature, well, I guess it's against the law for me to carry adults only because I'm too close to churches and schools at both my locations. But I actually had to create a children's section, a younger reader section, because it got to be where there's just such a little selection. I had to put it all in one place for parents to come in and with little kids wanting something to read. And there's just not enough being made for them. That market is being completely ignored. And that's where our next generation of readers are coming from. Talk about Batman. Yeah, all of a sudden they switched writers from Tom King, and these guys started introducing all sorts of new characters. And the Batmans have just blown up. But one of the things that kind of concerns me for the future, when DC comes out of this, what is going to be the books they're publishing? This new 5G that absolutely nobody is interested in or has any excitement. It's going to be like Convergence Part 2. So that's going to be our recovery package, is Convergence Part 2. I mean, this does not bode well.
The only one that sells well is Far Sector. I mean, everybody in my area loves that series. But you can't just run on that one. Come on.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Batman, DC wouldn't hardly sell much at all. I remember back in the 80s, though, Batman was not a big deal. Matter of fact, it was a very marginal seller. And then this movie came out in 89 with Michael Keaton, and Batman just blew up.
And then, like I said, it dropped on when I first opened. It just wasn't really doing much. Now it's huge. Now I'm seeing the upsurge in Wonder Woman. Flash is doing great. The thing with DC is the core characters are working well with them when they try to, and Far Sector is doing well, and that's a new character they introduced. But, like even with Marvel, they try to introduce new characters, and, one or two issues, number one and maybe number two do well, and then it just, goes down.
Now, Batman was always doing good for me, but its biggest hit came with Batman number 50, the infamous number 50 issue where they said, Batman's going to marry Catwoman. Everybody was having cakes and having parties and bought lots of copies. And then they did a bait and switch. And she stood up at the altar. I think it's probably something to do with her seeing this battle wagon, Batman Dab. She's like, that's all off. But, we don't have any support from the publishers. We never really have. If there's going to be a hot book, a new character, they won't tell us. If there's something that's a dog book, they'll tell like, oh, this is the next big thing. So anytime they say, it's like when Wolverine, we were waiting for him to get his adamantium back. There was a dozen times they solicited issues from Marvel saying, this might be the one. He could get it back. Never was one of them. When he finally did get it back, not a hint. So I've learned just, hey, if they're saying something's a big deal, cut my orders. Don't order extra because it's usually going to be a dog book. I mean, so there's kind of an adversarial relationship between retailers and publishers right now.
Well, that's what drives me nuts with when I try to order, and not try to get off on the topic, but when I try to order, you order it based on the description and based on what you sell in your shop. And I'm reading the description, and the description isn't telling me anything on why I should up my order on that particular Batman or Superman or whatever. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, because of the new what's her name? Punchline? Her name? Yeah. Yeah,
Punchline.
It comes out of nowhere, and I fell out of what little I had in the first, and I'm like, what the hell is going on?
I know, yeah.
And here's the funny thing about that, while we're on that topic, we're bouncing around here a little bit, but that's okay, we do that.
Look at that.
I had 2 nights ago, I had Ted Sikora on, and he's the publisher at Hero Tomorrow. They do an independent line of books, and Dave, these are really good. You should look into this. Apama, the Undiscovered Animal.
Okay.
Which is very Stan Lee and Ditko Spider-Man-like thing.
Right.
And then the biggest one they hit was Tap Dance Killer, which spun out of that. It got nominated for Best Writer, Best Artist, and Best Comic Series 2 years ago in our annual poll, and swept it with the fans.
I have the trade paperback on that. Yeah.
Okay, well, then then that at the end of the first issue of Tap Dance Killer, they introduced this character.
Yeah.
who's a clown themed gangster killer. Punchline.
There's actually an independent comic that's the title of the Punchline. Number
Yeah.
issue 5 came out this week.
Yeah.
Not Avatar. Antarctic publishes that one. The
Yeah.
character's not named Punchline, just the book is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's crazy. See, nothing's original.
A lot of wars going on over trademarks, aren't there?
Yeah.
There'll be, I think, on that one probably. But I've also heard that during this time when there's the shutdown, not knowing how long it will be, and I know some companies have sent their employees home until May 11th.
Mm-hmm.
Is their timeline to bring people back? I've heard that some publishers are going to go straight to digital and then switch back to paper when stores are open, which has left many to wonder: is there going to be a digital gap in their physical collection, or are they going to reprint them and dump them again?
If they go to digital, I'm cutting my orders on them. It's like DC does that with a lot of comics, where they'll release it digitally and then later time make it available in print. Those don't sell. People don't want them. So yeah, if somebody's going to publish it digital, I'm not ordering it in print. Or if I am, I'm just going to, the one guy who's a completist has got to get them all. And I'll tell you what, the completist has been killed by the comic book industry here in recent years. I mean, with all these variant covers, and you can't even get them all. I mean, they have executed the completists in our industry.
Well, and
Yeah.
and the thing that drives me nuts, I love them to death. I got some customers who really want that 1 in 10 or 1 in 50. But I'm a little guy. I'm not pulling in 10 of some issue if I know I can't move that.
Yeah.
Or
Mike, telling your solution for that one.
Yeah,
I'm sorry?
Michael, you got 2 stores, you can split it up. But
Oh yeah, I get a lot of the variants, but I don't get the 1 in 100. Well, every now and then, if it's a big title like Justice League or something like that, or Batman or Superman, but it's rare that I get the 1 in 100. And there's 1 in 500, there's 1 in 1,000,
no, it's
and
crazy.
you got to be in New York or LA to qualify for those.
Vegas.
Yeah.
But you did have a guy who wanted a variant that was 1 in so many, and you told me that story.
Oh yeah, I always tell people, like, look, because I'll charge extra based on how many books I have to buy to qualify for a book. But I always tell people, but if you want to buy all the books it takes to qualify for it, I'm gonna let you have the variant at cover price. Not one person has ever taken me up on that deal.
Yeah. I learned that the hard way. I got the 1 in 10 on. Remember Amber Blake, the comic Amber Blake?
No, I don't remember that.
Oh,
Yeah,
I remember. Okay, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, now I
it
do.
was
Yeah,
almost
Marvel.
magazine size. It was stupid size.
Uh-huh.
And on the second issue, I ordered 10 of those in so that the guy could get his 1 in 10, and he bought, I think, 5 of them. To this day, I'm still stuck with 5 of that damn Amber Blake too. Like, damn it, man. So I stopped doing that,
Yeah. It's kind of like when you buy action figures, you have to buy a case of them. Well, by the time you get the case in, Walmart and everybody else has had it a month before you do. And people will only come in wanting that one Chase variant figure that the employees never put out on the shelf. Well, you're going to be out of business real fast if you're buying cases of 12 and selling 1.
Yeah,
can't do
that's
it.
why we got that's why every comic book store has a whole wall of Marvel Legends figures because you have to do it that way.
I don't even mess with Marvel Legends anymore. I quit carrying them.
I'm taking your idea, Michael. I'm done.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, well, I used to be surrounded by, I was still surrounded by Walmart. I also had KB Toys. I had Toys R Us. I had several other big chain stores, and they all went after the action figures at the same time. And I just couldn't compete anymore. So I'll just order just a loose figure here and there. So I have to order a case. I can't think of the last time I ordered a case of figures because I just can't move them all.
Yeah, you're right. And that's a good way of thinking.
Yeah, it's like those Funko Pop figures. I mean, to order just a couple loose ones of those, the discount is so poor that once you figure in shipping, you're only going to make a quarter.
Yeah.
25 cents. It's not worth carrying it. And I've had people, ding me on like Google feedback about, well, he didn't have a very good selection of Funko Pop. No, I don't, because I don't want to go out of business. I can't afford to sell stuff at a loss. And people
Dave,
just don't
you got a
realize the
pyramid of
logistics.
Funko Pop.
What's that?
With that,
Dave, you got a pyramid of Funko Pop right
I
there.
have, I call it the Jenga tree of Funko. Like you pull one out and they all fall. It's the whole game of it. So, yeah, and I get it. I mean, we the markup is crap on those. I used to go through E-Entertainment, and you would have to buy them by the case, which
That's why I
hated.
quit carrying them.
Yeah, that's why I've got a basement full of Funko Pops, and I'm just like, Now, you know, when they come up on Diamond, I'll order one or two. I used to get three of one kind. Now it depends. I'll do one or two in that day.
But even then, your profit margin's a quarter. I mean, it's
Oh
not
yeah, I
worth
know
carrying
it's crap, but also you know the way I look at it is my customers want to come in and until the Funko Pop stuff implodes like Beanie Babies, people want them still. And I got one guy comes in and I actually put a case of stuff together for him and he buys them. You know.
Well, if you know you're going to sell them, yeah, that's a different thing because you want to satisfy your customers' demand.
Yeah,
but
when
if you're gambling, no, it's not a good gamble.
Right. So, yeah.
You have better luck going to the horse races.
So comic stores get everything through Diamond, is what I'm hearing. They get their Funko Pops through Diamond and their action figures through Diamond. Is that pretty much the case?
Unless you're going through E-Entertainment, which is another distribution, but they're strictly toys at E-Entertainment, but you have to buy cases. And that will put you out of business quicker than you can fix that.
Yeah, I'm always looking for another source, but it's like you said, you have to buy cases, and I just can't sell a case of anything. I'm, not that big a population in Arkansas.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm trying to think now how David doesn't help you any. I mean, you're locked down by martial law pretty much, or you can't go to the store. But how publishers could reach out to the stores best and say, hey, we will distribute directly to you. I know that Hero Tomorrow distributes directly. They've got an online store. Alterna Comics definitely ships direct. I don't know how many other people out there are doing it, how many need to know this, and what would be their best plan of attack for announcing it to everybody, whether, you can't just put something on Facebook and hope people see it. You pretty much have to start calling stores one at a time and telling them have product.
So that's one thing with a monopolized distribution system. If you weren't in the Diamond catalog, you basically weren't in business. I mean, it's kind of like when I first started in business, the whole dynamics of the world has changed. When I started in business in '82, if you weren't in the yellow pages, you didn't exist until the new phone book came out. Then the internet comes along. Now, if you're in the yellow pages, you're just wasting money because nobody uses the yellow pages to find anybody anymore. Everything's done by the internet now. So the internet's been a great tool, but this monopolized distribution system where you put all the eggs in one basket. I remember I've been an independent publisher too, as far back in the 80s. I remember when I was publishing in the 80s, I actually had better sales than I had 20 years ago. And I was putting out a better product 20 years ago. But in the 80s, you had 7 distributors. Nobody wanted to be the guy who didn't have the next hot thing. So everybody carried your stuff. Now, getting paid was another question because distributors were always having trouble. And but my store name was Collector's Edition. So whenever I'd call up accounts receivable saying, hey, this is Michael at Collector's Edition, they thought it was a collection agency. So bam, I'd get a check right away then. But it was a lot better paying market back in the 80s when you had multiple. Then with Diamond, when I started publishing them in the 2000s, the margins just weren't there. I mean, I was making a much better product, but you have less stores now, and Diamond, their attitude, at least the person I was dealing with, was like, we get 80% of our money with 20% of the work from Marvel and DC, and the other 20% of our money we have to do 80% of the work with. Well, they just that guy was just like, well, your independents are just not worth our time. He actually told me that, he doesn't care if the book's profitable. If it wasn't profitable enough for them, it wasn't worth their time. And I knew other publishers who got cut off by Diamond because Diamond said, well, you may be profitable, but it's not worth our time profitable. You got to have a certain level of profits for them to want to keep carrying your book. And so that's what I was talking about earlier about the lid being nailed onto the marketplace.
Diamond can definitely cancel a series on somebody if they determine that they're not moving enough of them.
Oh yeah, and they won't even let them finish the story. They'll cancel right in the middle of a series.
Well, that's one of the risks again of having a monopolized distribution center is somebody else is in charge of your future.
Right, and all the eggs are in one basket. Like I say, I'm not trying to say Steve's a bad guy. I mean, it's just it's logistics. He had to give away the store to be the survivor. And this is a creation of Marvel and DC. Is the way they wanted it, and now they're reaping the whirlwind. They wanted to push out all the smaller independents. Well, guess what? They're pushing out all their ground base, their support structure is what they're pushing out, the retailers, and they've been doing it for a long time. Back before it was just Diamond, when you had several distributors, if I ordered like say $50 worth of graphic novels, bam, it shipped to me, and I had them within 2 days. Nowadays, I have to pay all the shipping for it. That was shipped free. Now I have to pay all the shipping for it. And, unless I want to pay expedited shipping where there's just no profit margin left by the time you get it, it's like the Funko Pops, you have to wait like 2 weeks to get it in. So that's not responsible at all. I'll just go get it from Amazon. I can get it in a couple of days from Amazon. They won't charge me any shipping. So we can't compete. We're just being put on an unlevel playing field where everything's slanted to Amazon's favor. And so when you had multiple distributors, they were giving you services because they were worried about keeping your business. And, we were such a thriving business back then. It was a whole different marketplace. That's one thing about having been in the business 38 years. You've seen what it has been. You've seen what it could be. And, it could be better. And what we're seeing now is just a perfect example of what's wrong with the system.
I have heard this whole mess of the stores closing first for the virus and then closing because they were made to close. And then, now Diamond is saying you might as well close because we don't have anything for you to sell.
Yeah.
I've heard people refer to this as an extinction event for the comic book industry, at least for the LCSs.
Yeah, that's the other question. How much do I want to fight through this thing? Because you don't want to come through this thing so severely damaged that once you get through it, you still can't make it. Or what happens? We're not going to do comics anymore. Like DC says, well, we're just going to go all digital. I mean, DC's silence, to me, is probably the scariest thing about all of this. The fact that they're not expressing any support. There's no plan. Nobody, I think Marvel's committed to keep on making books, but we haven't heard a word out of DC. And that's what's kind of scary is like, what are they not telling us?
Well, and the acquisition of Warner Brothers and DC through AT&T, the moment that went down, and I had forgotten about it until somebody reminded me, and I went, oh my God, that's right, they did acquire it. I knew it was a bad business deal, At least it was a bad business deal from the DC Warner Brothers point of view, or from their end, because I thought, God, AT&T doesn't know what the hell they're doing with this. And they have proven that they don't know what they're doing with this. And the fact that they want to go all digital with this and stop print.
Yeah.
And,
what?
Going back to a point that I made earlier in this conversation, that is one of my fears with all of this, is if this goes on too long, you're gonna have this giant cause and effect or ripple effect where the comic book shops that have been around a while, do they want to continue to do it? The new guys, can we afford to even, are we going to be in a month or two if this goes on? Are we going to be able to afford to even open up, again?
Yeah.
Because no matter what, even though my landlord has dropped his rent down on my building, I still have to pay even that amount, and I have no income coming in.
Yeah.
So
utilities, phone companies aren't giving you any breaks.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's all in this one day at a time. And I get it that nobody knew that this was going to happen and the whole world doesn't know how to deal with it and so on and so forth. But this is going to kill. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to prepare for the worst and be happy, well, whatever the term is. Prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Right. Bad thing about all that, DC and Marvel have wanted to get rid of us as a retailer. They wanted to go all digital a while back. I remember I used to ask Marvel and DC all the time, why don't you guys ever advertise? You're $1 billion business and you do no national advertising. Well, the response to that was, well, we're just too small an industry. You're only $1 billion. We can't afford to advertise nationally. But when all of a sudden they wanted to make digital comics, they had some advertising budgets. And what happened was, back up a little bit, when they started making comics mature back in the 90s, and they didn't tell anybody, well, all these comics were being sold on racks that said, hey, kids, comics, but they weren't appropriate for kids. People complained, and so all the grocery stores, all the Walmarts, it's the South, all the gas stations, everywhere pulled comics. They quit selling them. So people had thought they had quit making comics. So then all of a sudden they started advertising digital. They were like, what? They still make comics? Well, then they came and found the actual comic book stores. So when they thought, when they went to digital, that every comic book store in America was going to fold like a chain of tire record stores with music with digital. But what happened was print sales went up because they were advertising. Right. They were like, we're trying to put you down, and you guys just keep getting stronger. We wouldn't die on them. And I mean, they could be looking at this as an opportunity just to finally just crush us the rest of the way. But I think what they're going to find out was digital sales have been dropping now for quite a while. It hit a peak. People don't like digital. I mean, a comic book is a tactile experience. When you're holding that book in your hand, your eyes, you're the movie theater. You decide how fast you're going to go from panel to panel. You know where you're going to loiter. If you want to sweep over several panels with one glance, you can do it. You can't do that with digital. It goes from panel to panel. It decides how much of the page you're going to see. And people just don't like digital. Plus, digital will never have any value in the future. You've got no investment potential. The collector aspect is completely destroyed. Then going on top of that, how long until that platform becomes obsolete? You've got a printed comic 1,000 years from now. As long as you've got a candle, you can read it in the dark. It's a delivery system that never goes becomes obsolete, never goes out of style. So I think if they try to go digital, I think that would be the end of the comic book industry.
Yeah, I agree, because that's the other thing is I always say this in my shop when I talk to my customers. I always say that most of this industry will die with us, meaning
it will.
Gone, that's it. Because look, my daughter who's 18, she's not reading comic books. Most of my clientele, I had somebody ask me the other day, who's most of your clientele? And I go, probably the 30-something, 30 on up. I said, most of it is my age group, which is in the 50s. So we grew up on this stuff. He goes, well, not a lot of kids? I go, no, kids want to play their video games and stuff like that. I get a handful, and that's because parents have taught their kids how to read comics, but the majority of it is our age group. So that being said, I don't do much digital stuff. So why is everybody? Yeah. So we're not doing that. So who is DC and Marvel trying to appeal to by doing the digital era? Because most of us at our age love the collectability. You want to feel the comic. You want to buy a book. You want to buy that toy. Whatever. We're from a collectability age group. Because that's how we grew up. Today it literally is. Today is all video games. My kids don't want anything that I have. I go, I'll leave you the comic book store when I'm gone. They're like, no, sell it. I don't want it. So yeah, this generation is a throwaway generation. That's the thing.
My story is a little bit different than for yours there, because I do have a strong kid audience, and I have kids that they want more comics. They're just the comics that they're wanting, they're not being made for them. And I'm an Overstreet price guide advisor. I wrote this in one of my Overstreet reports just to try to get the word out from Marvel and DC, maybe to just try to slap them to wake up. Here's your formula for kids' products. Like, I'm sure both of you are familiar with a program from England called Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Been around since the 60s. Well, a couple of years ago, they did a special about the first season of Doctor Who and how it was made. And in this episode, or kind of dramatic reenactment, the programming director of the BBC tells the woman who's producing Doctor Who that the formula for kids programming is you've got to keep it complicated enough to keep the kids interested, but dumbed down enough so you don't lose the adults. Well, in America, we make comics the exact opposite. We dumb it down for the kids. We treat them like they're not very smart, and then we give the complicated stuff to the adults. Well, the kids don't want to read that. So many of the comics I'm seeing they're making are like, yeah, there's a reason this isn't selling. Kids are insulted. They're like, I don't want to read Pablum. I'm not a baby. And they're not giving them good product. I mean, they want to read the same things you and I want to read. This mom and dad would rather not have the F-bomb in there or overt nudity or sex act. And let's not have anybody punching a kidney out with an I-beam, if you would. You take those things away, and the kids will read the exact same level of reading we do. And that's what they want. They don't want to be talked down to because they know when they're being talked down to. And that's where the publisher's really missing the boat on kids program, because kids is a huge market. I mean, look how well, television and movie programming and, does with the kids market. Scholastic is doing print runs in the millions on their graphic novels. But we aren't getting that kind of content for the comic book industry. It's a huge boat that they're just like waving at us as they go by, and we're standing on the shore going, I'd like some, please, if you would. The comic industry, they've got this attitude like, well, we want to make the stuff that we want to read, and so we will find excuses to fulfill our viewpoint. It's like they'll make a book that bombs, or let's go back to the movies. The movie that bombed made Green Lantern. Wasn't a very good movie. Oh, people don't want to see outer space movies. A year later, Marvel comes along with Guardians of the Galaxy. Unknown characters, unknown cast, huge hit because it was a good, fun show, and that's what they wanted. So it was nothing the fact that, people don't want it because it's outer space. You give them a good product and it will sell. And the same thing goes for kids' products too. Give them some good books and they will sell. The publishers, they just don't want to. Kind of like Diamond doesn't want to distribute books anymore for right now.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons, and I had nothing against Jim Lee. I think he's a talented person. I think one of the reasons why you're getting so much silence out of DC on this is Jim Lee pretty much just got gobsmacked a few weeks ago and woke up and said, "Oh my God, I'm in charge of the company now," instead of being titularly co-in charge with Dan DiDio, where he was not necessarily the driving force or the co-publisher, and now he's the publisher. So I don't think he's prepared to make these kind of statements.
Yeah. People were pretty happy when Dan was gone, though. But the way he was gone was kind of strange because there was no announcement from DC, no announcement from Dan. It was kind of like they put the body in the trunk, drove the river, dumped him into it, and let's not talk about it. And it just so a lot of people were excited because nobody wanted to see that 5G that he was coming out with, and it's like like we were talking earlier about reading solicitations, how the solicitation information is useless. The only information I actually look at, writer and artist, and if I see something like Keith Giffen or Dan Didio or Bill Jemas, it used to be back about 20 years ago. I see those names as a writer. Oh, don't order very many of them because it's not going to sell.
Yeah, well, you know who the people are buying because I definitely would look for anything by Jeff Johns that he was still writing for DC.
Right? Yeah, you see Jeff Johns' name. Okay, I better bump that one up. If he takes over a title, it's going to increase in sales. You know who tells the good stories. You know who doesn't.
And of course, the good artists too. And a lot of the times now, what we're seeing is the publishers know who the good artists are. They hire them to do the covers.
I remember back in the 90s when they were making all those beautiful painted trading cards. And I kept asking Marvel DC, why don't you guys put that stuff on the covers of the comic books? Well, they're finally doing it. 20 years or 30 years a little bit late.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and I'm an old fan of the old painted covers anyway, from like Turok and some of the old Western comics. When they had painted Tarzan, I love all of those old painted comics or painted covers. And my personal collection, I try to get as many of those as I can.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look at the artists who are like Painterly at digital, like Art Germ. I mean, it's amazing his covers that he does, especially the stuff he did for Vampirella and things like that. Those are great covers, and I mean, they look almost like they're paintings, but they're a combination of both, probably. I honestly would love to sit down with Art Germ and pick his brain on how he did all that. I mean,
I'm figuring out how he's doing it, though. I know Howard is aware that I also do a weekly online comic strip that I write, color, and letter. And I'm figuring out his techniques. I was like, I figured out one just a couple weeks ago, like, I've been using that on backgrounds where I could use that on figures too. Some of the tricks and techniques. But when I was a kid, I was the same way. I did not want the Marvels of DC line drawn covers when I could buy a beautiful painted cover from Goki, Turok, Tarzan, Total War. I mean, there was just a lot of beautiful stuff back then, and it just looked so much better. And then Conan the Barbarian came along. I've been reading Robert E. Howard and said, I don't know, it's a Marvel, but I'll take a look at it. I saw that Barry Windsor Smith art, and that's when I started collecting Marvel.
Yeah. The good old days.
I know there's a push from the publishers for the digital. We've talked about that. I've been seeing a push back from the fans on the digital.
Yeah, they don't want it.
Because, well, a lot of them have, they've already been complaining about the quality of the stories, and writers and creators have been saying, yeah, but you're not my customer. I sell books to comic book stores. They're my customer. They have to sell the book to you. So, if you're upset about something, go to your comic shop. Mm-hmm. Well, now they're trying to cut the middleman out of the whole deal. Like you said, they're trying to get rid of the comic shops. Yeah. And this is the time to do it. You can't go to a comic shop. Buy digital. Buy our digital stuff. And it's like, all of a sudden now we're your customer.
Yeah, it's not a good plan if they try to go with the digital. I mean, if they want to just kill the industry, well, that's the way to do it. But the comic book industry, that's a huge IP source of our intellectual property. That's where all the movies and television programs are coming from nowadays, and they're doing very, very well with it. And I don't think they want to kill the goose that laid the golden egg just because they want to eat some duck tonight.
Right, and then I know they're trying to cut their costs back tremendously. You go digital, all digital. Hell, you don't have to deal with print runs.
Right. Well, that's what they're hoping. They can just pull money out of the ether.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they'll find out it's a pipe dream. It's just nothing but smoke.
Yeah. Well, it's like e-currency. That didn't work so well either. Remember? The Bitcoin. Remember?
Never
they-
participated in it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was digital money, and that didn't go over with very well. So yeah, we're not there, and it's going to be a long ways before we get to that kind of a world. I mean, I know that they're trying to move towards that, but now's not the time to do it. Maybe when I'm gone and Michael's gone and Howard, you're gone, maybe that's when we do it. So, but not yet, not yet.
All right.
People still like
Well,
a tangible item. They still want to hold something in their hands.
Yeah. I talked with Scott McCloud about 20 years ago when he was talking about going digital webcomics. And he was, Scott McCloud's more of a big brain on this. His digital comics, his whole thing was like, you don't digitally scan the comic book because, first of all, your monitor is this way, not this way, and the comic book is this way. And second of all, you're not taking advantage of the whole fact that digitally you have an infinite canvas. And you can control like turning the page, you can still control the flow of how a comic book goes. And I sat in one of his lectures he did in Arkansas when he was down there 20 years ago at, I can't remember
Probably
he was in
UCA.
Arkadelphia.
Oh, okay.
He was in Arkadelphia at the college there.
Henderson?
Yeah, Henderson. And he showed a webcomic. He's like, look, here's a single panel. And he scrolled, and it was a guy falling. And then you scrolled up more, and there he was again. And you could see the background going behind him. And people were saying, well, why don't you just animate that? He's like, no, then it's a cartoon. If you scroll and you're controlling the scroll of it, then, you're going as infinitely down as you want to draw the comic until you're done drawing it. And, oh, by the way, if you want to start going to the left now, then you make it scroll that direction.
Yeah.
But that's, a totally different kind of digital comic. And no one's taking advantage of that. And that's a totally different tangent and a topic for another night, I think. Gentlemen, I think we've beaten this one to death on us here. So,
Well, we're the ones who feel like we're beaten to death, but yeah, I know where you're coming from.
But you know what? I'm glad we did this. This is, Michael, I'm so happy to finally have met you.
Oh, nice to make your acquaintance today.
Even though it's digital. But
you should see the print version.
Yeah, exactly. And I hope we can talk again soon. I hope we can do this again soon. In fact, let's do this if we can as this progresses along. And we can find out, because every day changes, every week changes. And we'll see how it all.
Yeah, and a lot of my work's in print, so who knows? You may want to look at maybe carrying some of that in your store someday, too.
Yeah, I would be more than happy to, definitely. I'm proud to.
We want to do this again in 2 weeks?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have some good
weeks
news by then.
I'm in.
All right.
Yeah.
Everybody heard here first. 2 weeks from tonight, 7 p.m. Join us again. We'll have Dave and Michael on here talking how comic shops are coping with the modern world. And with that, I want to thank you guys for coming. We've been a little bit over time here, but not too much. And I think we had a really good discussion here. Looking forward to doing this again.
Yeah, good show.
Everybody
For
take
everybody
care.
who's coming late, we have Dave Dyer from Cosmic Comics in Belleville. We have Michael Tierney from the comic book store in North Little Rock and Collector's Edition in Little Rock. And I probably got those mixed up, didn't I?
Yeah, it's a Collector's Edition in North Little Rock and the comic book store in, I'm sorry, now I got it mixed up. Collector's Edition in North Little Rock and the comic book store in Little Rock.
All right. Thank you, guys. And we will see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Good to talk to y'all.
Yep, rock on.
It's always like the end of a police squad episode here when I'm hitting the end button. We're like just pros.